Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Steven Naismith and Hugh McDonald here with me. We will look back on last night's Premiership games, the results, and of course get reaction from some of the key men involved. You can give us your view, you can follow us on our Facebook, you can share the stream with your pals. Tell them all about the show Monday to Friday, live at 4 o'clock, or you can watch it at your leisure. And if you're on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button and join the football family. We're also on Twitter at PLZ Soccer. So, apart from the games, as ever over the last 2 or 3 days, the burning story has been all about a European Super League, which looks dead and buried, but according to Florentino Perez of Real Madrid, it's only in hibernation, Hugh.
Yeah, I suppose it is in terms of the clubs. The reason for the clubs going for this, Peter, has not disappeared. So I think the clubs that try to break away will look back on this and see that our aim was right, our presentation was wrong. That'll be their view. They'll try and find another way of engineering more money to come into their coffers. I mean, in many ways, Peter, people have forgotten they've already arranged that through the redesigned Champions League that's going to come into force anyway. So I think this is a story that's not going anywhere, Peter. This is a story that's fueled by clubs wanting more revenue, fueled by clubs wanting a bigger share of the pie, and that motivation isn't going to disappear.
Well, interestingly enough, no sooner did we see the door apparently slammed, Steven Naismith, then suddenly this morning we got all talk of a British Super League with Celtic and Rangers involved in it as well. Now, so we don't lose the thread of decency on this, the reason why the European Super League was met with such anger was because of the way they went about it, as you mentioned there. No consultation, just a big announcement, and also no meritocracy. It was a closed shop, and it was all about trying to write off debt and then make these people richer. So there wasn't really a feeling of the collective of football, despite what Florentino Perez says. Do you see any mileage in this story, which has been going on for decades now, about Celtic and Rangers in a British league if it got all the consent? And my only reason for putting this to you is it's not breaking UEFA rules, because they seem open at UEFA to Belgian and Dutch merge to a league called the Beneliga.
You're right in saying that this is my whole footballing career. This has been a story. Every year or every couple of years, there is the mention of the old firm trying to go down to England or a European league. I think the backlash for the Super League is slightly different. I think the argument for Rangers Celtic going to England is more about, would England accept them or would they not? Is the product that the English league's producing in the Premiership, what will the old firm bring to that? Now, they're two massive clubs who, the fan base and stuff like that, but I'm not so sure it's as straightforward as come on down, join the league. I think there's, in terms of them going down, I personally can't see it happening. But it's one of those, like I said, it's never ever going to go away. And I think all this European Super League news does is probably changes everybody's tack, like you said, about how they go about presenting these things to hopefully make them acceptable.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, Roughie, because quite simply, Dermot Desmond says that there are changes afoot, and it's going to change. This one has been met with anger and, of course, resistance. But I still feel as if the market forces are dictating that there is change on the way for me. How they go about it, how they structure it, how they sell it is another matter. But I think a lot of people are becoming restless with the current status quo.
Yeah, I think if the Super League thing had went away, that would be the next step for Rangers and Celtic. If they're going to allow these teams to play in that kind of league and travel about, then obviously they'd say, well, you've changed the rules. You know, we've been wanting to try and come down here for a long time now. So there would have to be rules getting changed to allow the English to start travelling about Spain and Italy and playing in the leagues and that. But for me, you know, I'm like Stevie. Why would you vote for it? Why would you if you're in the Championship and you're a Watford or a Norwich or whatever, you know, and the money they're piling in to get into the top league. But if it did happen, it would make it a wee bit easier for it. But for me, I would like them to stay. I think they're a large part of Scottish football. And a wee bit of it just falls into category the same as the teams in the Super League. It's just about money. It's just greed. It's just to get more money. You can see why the clubs want to do it. And Rangers and Celtic would come into that category because that's the reason that they would go, is to make more money. And if the other mob are getting charged with the greed one, then I'm sure a lot of people were saying Rangers and Celtic would come under the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I accept what Stephen was saying as well. I mean, a lot of people would, again, put forward a fair bit of resistance to this, Hugh. I mean, I read Jonathan Woodgate and everybody saying, would Rangers and Celtic beat Bournemouth? Well, after 1 year in the Super League, I would suggest to you they'd absolutely batter them, you know, if it was a British league. After 5 years, I think a lot of English clubs would be getting slightly miffed with how big Rangers and Celtic are.
Well, this is what you've got to look at, Peter. You've got to look at this. You've got to take this away from a sporting context. You know, this rubbish about would they beat Bournemouth. Of course they would beat Bournemouth, not because they would go into a league on the back of, of investment. And there would be a huge amount of money behind them going in. Rangers and Celtic are clubs that can sell out every week when they're playing against Ross County and Kilmarnock. What are they going to do? What is the pay-per-view potential, Peter, if they're going to be playing Manchester United or whatever? These are industrial behemoths. These are huge clubs. Now, the big problem, as Stephen says, is getting them into another league. Now, they'll only get into another league if the other league wants them. I think if the European Super League had gone ahead, the Premier League would have been more likely to want Rangers and Celtic in then if they'd lost 6 top clubs. So it's a means of entry rather than what they can bring to the league.
Well, can I just go back to you on that question? And again, this story's come out of left field in the back pages of the Sun newspaper. And again, not in any way stoked by Celtic suddenly, or Rangers suddenly suggesting this is what's going to happen. This is a story that's, again, could have been in the back burner. My point to you is, because of the nature of the way the financial structure of clubs and what's happened over the pandemic and basically what's happening, across Britain, across European football, across world football, and of course, which I mentioned this even, the Beneliga situation, I firmly believe that there's change on the way and the business people are going to force it through. As long as they force it through with consultation, with acceptance, with a strategy that's accepted that benefits the rest of the clubs, I do see change happening. I just don't know what the structure is on it, but Celtic and Rangers almost certainly would be at the forefront of something if it was in a British context.
Peter, you're not telling me, like I once talked to the guy, the head honcho at Setanta, and he said, we never lost money. Eventually they went down the pan, as we know. He said, we never lost money by televising a Celtic game or a Rangers game. We always made money. Whether we were playing the New England Revolution, whether we were playing Colorado Rapids or whatever, they made money. They made money on that brand. 2 things, Peter. Do you think that European clubs don't know that 2 stadiums selling out, more than 100,000 people on season tickets, on games? They don't realise that. They don't realise the potential. They don't realise the merchandising that Rangers and Celtic are bringing. And see, the second point, Peter, the silence of Celtic Rangers this week has been deafening. Do you think that the European Super League and the people who are involved in that, Agnelli, the European Club Association, etc., never made a phone call to Celtic and Rangers to see what they were thinking about it? They made a phone call to Porto. We know that. So this is, as they say, this is a story that will develop and is developing because, quite frankly, the Celtic and Rangers, the business model is burst for them under this at the moment. You know, this can't continue. Just, you know, guys paying 500-600 quid a year just for Scottish games, and then the chance of a Champions League. I know we get a guaranteed one at the end of this year, but the business model is flush. They've got to look for, you know, to build a brand, and building the brand means geographically moving out of Scotland.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Alexander Seferin, Roughie, has mentioned that there's a small possibility that the Champions League match between Chelsea and Real Madrid could be off. They're going to play that semi-final April 27th on the Tuesday. Now, the problem here for UEFA is they've got financial deals in place with the broadcasters, so I don't see them doing that. And I wonder, Roughie, whether they're actually going to punish these clubs. I mean, if Florentino Perez is still saying it's on the back burner, I mean, I would absolutely be battering Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think it would have to be an outcry through all the other clubs who are particularly upset about it and not being taken on board with it, and it seems to have just bypassed them all. It would have to be them. I would think we'd have to force UEFA to some kind of fine or something like that. But I tend to think that UEFA will be more than happy than they've buckled so quickly, and they'll get round the table, because they're massive clubs that we're talking about. I don't think UEFA want to be seen to be, outdone in this thing. So they will come up with something, that sends a message to everybody else that this is the first and last time you're going to do this, although you're saying it's in the back burner. So it remains to be seen what they do.
Yeah, Pep Guardiola says this chapter is closed.
It's a closed chapter, and as a club, we accept, we learn, and focus what the reason why we are here. So we are so close. Today we are 11 points again in front. One, of course, more game in our hands, but we need it's in our hands. In the 5 games left to play, we need 2 victories, 1 draw, and we are close.
Yeah, they'll be able to finish those games now that they've withdrawn from the proposed European Super League. Although I would suggest to you, Andrew Davison on Facebook has just suggested, Stephen, they've tasted blood now. They will not go away. And I tend to agree with Andrew on that one. One thing that's certain, though, Stephen, the owners who were guilty of this mutiny is not going down well with their fan base.
No, I think every one of them's been battered, and the grovelling apology comes in one form or another. But so many people have said it. If you look at how these guys see each club as a business, that is none of these have grown up the fans of their club, and they want the best for basically the club comes before the business model. That is gone. Over the years, over the last 15, 20 years, these billionaires have come in, took over clubs because they've seen the potential in the market for the business. And the Super League's just an added extension of that. These big clubs want to make more money. Simple as that. And then when you talk about the old firm, the potential in there too, because they blow every team out, everybody out the top 6 in the English Premier League, they blow out the water for their fan base. So that is why they're so appealing. And that's going to be the constant heads butting together, is the history and the working man's game of football against the potential as a business to make as much money, and going forward, even with the TV deals and entering in UEFA and FIFA competitions, if the football world control, or these clubs being able to control every aspect of that as an income revenue, if they have their own TV channel, and in this day and age, then they'll make far greater numbers. And that, sadly, at the moment, is what's driving most of these massive clubs, because of the owners and their mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of them are doing their own TV channel to the detriment of our industry, Hugh, dare I say. Not against them running their own TV channel, but just trying to control the narrative without everybody else getting a share of it.
Yeah, I mean, they exclusively want their own TV channels, and they decided that the players are their property and shouldn't give interviews to press and all that. People will say that might be fair enough, etc. But what it does is it gives you a Liverpool press conference the other night, Peter, when not one question is asked about the European Super League. Is that good for football? I don't think so. I think football has to be challenged, has to be questioned. Stephen, of course, is absolutely correct on the. Do you think that the Kroenke, Fenway Sporting Group, Dubai, Qatar, etc., are looking at the business model they've got now and are saying this is the best way forward for us? Of course, it's not. And what they're also looking at, and the people I don't think have quite grasped, they're saying, "Oh, the fans are up in arms, and the fans will desert them." They'll look at that pretty coolly, Peter. They've made their sums up, and they've now come up with the term legacy fans, which I suppose all four of us in this programme are. That would be, people who are wedded to teams, people who have followed teams, people who have got an attachment to teams. They're not really interested in the legacy fan. What they're interested is beaming big style football matches to places all over the world, to the Indian market, the Brazilian market, the Asian market, huge markets where people suddenly, like the NFL, become, how you'll see when on your travels, Peter becoming San Francisco 49er fans or Green Bay Packer fans. That's what they want. They want a franchise system which is accessed across the world on pay-per-view television with merchandise that has European Super League branding with individual clubs, and it's a model. It's a model that'll work, Peter. I mean, see this people talk about, the fans will desert it. Yeah, a lot of the E-Joel fans, what they call the legacy fans, will. But come on, football's got an international appeal, and it's got an international market there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Peter, can I ask you, Hugh, why did the Germans not buy into it?
Well, there's two problems with the Germans. First of all, there's the 49% rule, which the fans own most of the clubs, so they would have to get it through the fans. So that would have been a real tester for them. But the also thing is Roughie, is Bayern knew this, and Bayern knew this. Bayern were the only club that was going to be invited into the Super League, although a couple others said they had been sort of tentatively contacted. But the other thing as well is a lot of clubs have played it really cute, and I think Bayern have played it cuter than anybody. I think Bayern didn't want to get on the train as it was leaving the station, knowing that there could be damage to it, particularly with their own fans under the 49% rule. Definitely in the German culture, there'd been a big problem. Why not join it as it's entering the station? 3 or 4 stops down the line where Bayern can turn around and say, do you know what, this is a fait accompli. We've really got to get on board on this or the club kind of dies. So I think two reasons. One, organisation of the clubs in terms of ownership, and two, Bayern playing it very cute.
Yeah, I agree with you. And my old friend Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, now the honorary chairman of the ECA, Hugh. There are all sorts of shenanigans from within UEFA that continue. And he was, over the last 2 or 3 years, very much pro a kind of Super League, and he made lots of noises about it. So I do not think he's going away. There's a lot of backstabbing to continue with this one, and this story will not go away. But I think we are in an ever-changing landscape, and no matter how many fans get angry about it, sooner or later, it's all going to fall into place for the rich businessmen. What about the Scottish Premiership and what we witnessed last night? Well, I don't know about you, Roughie, but Celtic had so many chances against Aberdeen, it defied belief. I mean, they could have played all night, and I thought they would never score. Aberdeen, to their credit, got a goal early on, defended it, tried to play some nice football on the deck. I like what Stephen Glass is trying to do with them. And then Griffiths pops up with the late show with the last touch of the ball, Roughie.
Yeah, I think it'll be the second time that John Kennedy will be sitting in the house at night wondering how they never took more out of the game. Same as the Rangers game as well. It was the same sort of a chances they created, but just couldn't take them. And in football, you've got to take them. You've got to take them when they come along. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. And it's not happening against the better sides in the league. But I think the Griffiths goal was a consolation one. You know, that there's nothing to build on with that. You know, that and the season just keeps rumbling away. You know, and every game that's coming up now is getting less and less important. Apart from the Rangers game, obviously at the end. So no, it's a season that needs to be just taken away and just gone away and rebuilding.
Yeah, well, it's limping along to the end, but only in Scottish football could you be a villain and completely written off in one game, and then you score a header in the last 2 or 3 seconds, and suddenly everybody's talking about him salvaging his Scotland career. John Kennedy's one of them.
It's down to form. It comes down to how Steve's seen it. Obviously, I think he's got a few strikers now to choose from. So, again, all you can do, and it's the same with the rest of the boys. You know, Dave Turnbull, who's been spoken about it, and obviously Calm's a regular there, as is Greg. They just got to put themselves in contention as best they can, and then allow Steve to make that decision. But you know, tonight's what Griff is all about. You know, in that kind of penalty box, getting half a yard and finishing.
Yeah, well, he popped up, come off the bench, scored the goal, and even his teammates still think he's got something to offer.
You know, it's been well documented that he's had his problems as well. So, you know, I think us as teammates, we try and help him as much as we can. I feel like that's our duty as well, is to try and keep him on the right track, keep him, you know, training well, looking after himself, and because we all get the benefit of that, and so does he. So, you know, that's the type of striker that you want to have around you and a squad. You know, when you're going for trophies and things like that, you need that real killer instinct.
I know from your own point of view, Stephen, you would battle away and never turn your back in your country. Is Lee Griffiths the type of person that Steve Clarke has got to maybe look at and say, I need him on the bench, even though I'm still uncertain of his, you know, his commitment or his fitness, or call it what you will. If there's a niggling doubt in the back of Steve Clarke's mind, do you think the overriding thing is maybe he's got to go as maybe a 4th or a 5th striker?
I think in the interview there, Callum's been generous in saying it's their duty to look after him. I think Griff's experienced enough. First of all, he needs to make sure he's in the right shape and ready to play every opportunity. But the reason you asked this question, and the reason it's constantly spoke about, is because Griff is a lethal finisher, and that's the hardest thing in the game to do. And it's not a position or a type of player that is we've got abundance of. So, in that respect, that is why Griff is still getting spoke about for the national team. I think if it was anybody else that maybe doesn't have that as good finishing as Griff, they're not even considered. So, I think, as the manager says, he just needs to work hard, get as much game time as he can. But if he doesn't get much more game time, I think he'll struggle. I think he'll struggle to make the cut, because alone, his threat of goals and in his last couple of international appearances, he has been that guy that's came off the bench for the last 15-20 minutes of the games and not done anything. So he needs to be playing to have some form of sharpness, and then if he does manage that, I think he's got a great chance of going. But if he doesn't play much between now and the end of the season, I think it'll be too late for him.
I think the general view from you and I, Hugh, and maybe lots of Celtic fans, is he's finished at Celtic. I think he'll move away in the summer. But I was trying to think of, you know, 4 certainties that, as Stephen alluded to there, who are good finishers, who can guarantee you goals. And, you know, for all his failings, he can score goals. So have you got a 4 or a 5 strikers in your mind? I mean, it's Dykes, it's Shea Adams. Is it then, you know, who are the other 2 or 3 that you're putting in there? Is it a Lawrence Shankland? Is it?
I think Nisbet's got a chance, Peter. I think because he's movement, because he's young. I think, but that still leaves a 4th. McBurney, we know, the much vilified and maligned McBurney won't be going. So because of injury. So even with Nisbet, and I'm pretty sure Nisbet will go, it leaves an opportunity up for grabs. I mean, he of course Stephen Clarke doesn't have to pick 4. He could pick 3 and make, you know, and say, well, Ryan Fraser could come in and play behind, or Ryan Christie could play off a 1 or whatever. But I think he will go for 4, and it's definitely open. I'm always hesitant, Peter, to criticise Griffiths on the basis of it. You know, there has been much reporting about it being a mental health issue. So I'm never one to pile on anybody in a mental health issue, but the fact that that John Kennedy is saying that Griff's suddenly getting up to speed with 3 games of the season to go is, I mean, I think that tells a story. You're saying to yourself, well, wow,
Yeah, but we're not talking about
it's
his mental health here, Hugh. Steven Naismith has mentioned there he can score goals. He's a lethal finisher,
Yeah.
and that's why he's still in the
But-
mix. So
Yeah.
with that in mind, he's also been heavily criticised, which is, some people could link it to mental health, but he's been heavily criticised by his own club because he's come back not fit. He's overweight,
Yeah,
not fit, not in the right frame of mind. So is he worthy of taking because he's got that ability to score goals?
Well, yeah, I mean,
In your
Stephen
mind.
says goals cancel out everything, Peter. Goals are the great eradicator of all sins. People put up a lot when guys are scoring goals. I'm just wondering though if that is, and I know nothing about this, but is this attitude or unfitness, is this linked to a mental health thing? I don't know. I think if he got a clean bill of health, and they said, yeah, he's fit in a good frame of mind to go and he's getting fitter, well, he's not knocking Harry Kane out the squad. I mean, he's going to go where, I mean, who are we thinking of after Nisbet, Adams and Dykes? Who are we thinking of number
Hugh,
4,
I think, see the way the manager's going to set this squad up, he'll have his core group of guys that he relies on, he can trust, and then, like you say, we've named 2 strikers off the bat that we're 100% there. Out with that, the manager then needs to think, right, what tools they are, what weapons do I want in my armoury? Is it goals? Then you go Griff. I need somebody who's rapid, in case we're sitting deep and just counter. You think of Ollie Burke straight away. Or is he going to go down the route of, I've got an abundance of midfielders who I could play a lot of them, McTominay at the back if need be, or that. Do I fill the squad up with mainly midfielders and have Fraser, Forrest as, if you like, forwards? That's probably the manager's dilemma, because we aren't sitting here with a list of we're struggling to get names for that striking position. So I think that's the way the manager will need to look at it.
Yeah. Listen, the other thing I've got to mention to you, I mean, everybody's piling in on this. Would you take him, Roughie? Yes or no, Griffiths?
Well, I think Lee Griffiths is a goal scorer, but has he been a goal scorer this season? And when you go to massive competitions, you take players who are on form, or you take a gamble on somebody. I think Griffiths is a gamble. There's no guarantee he's going to come on the last 15 minutes of every game and score a goal. I tend to go with Eze. I think if James Forrest shows any form at all at any fitness level, that he gives you something that can open up teams, not just for the last 15 minutes of a game, but for even longer. But we need him at his peak as well. If I had a choice, would it be Forrest or Griffiths? It would be Forrest.
Well, that's the longest yes or no I've ever offered you. But nevertheless, we move on. Aberdeen, to their credit, tried to play some good football. I think they had a claim for a penalty or 2, and certainly we're looking at some of the decisions on discipline handed out to the Celtic players. Stephen Glass not happy with the ref on this.
I'm disappointed the fact we lost a late goal. I'm unbelievably proud of the players though for the effort that they put in. I think they were fantastic against a good Celtic team who moved the ball really well, gave us a few problems, but I think we were ready for it. We were ready to break at speed, and like you say, there's a couple of situations there that I think if anybody watching the game could see they should be handled differently. But I'm not about to start criticising referees. I said this last week already.
Well, he did not a bad job in the first 18 or 19 seconds there. But apart from anything else, that goal was really painful for Aberdeen last night, Stephen, because not only did they deny them the other 2 points that they were looking for to get the win, suddenly they're 6 points behind Hibs. Hibs are 11 goals better off in the league table. And I think when you look at the last games, they've got Livingston, Hibs and Rangers. Aberdeen. So if they're going to make it, they would need a goals fest and make it by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, I think in one respect, yeah, it's tough for them. But I think the manager will be more unhappy that's if they get a win against Celtic psychologically, for him coming in right at the start of a job, it's massive for him. I think from now to the end of the season, if you're Aberdeen, you're not solely going, we need to get third. There's a new manager just come in the door. This is about getting him bedded in, getting the foundations of how he wants to work with his squad to put on a good showing next season and really complete then. I think it was a big ask for them to even get third before the game. But for me, the bigger thing is that he'll want to get his style of play, he'll want to get the players understanding what he expects and go from there. I think that's more why he'll be disappointed. But the way he's set up and the way he's come in and the way the players are playing is encouraging signs for Aberdeen.
Yeah, the champions Rangers managed a 1-1 draw against St Johnstone. Looked as if they were going to get all 3 points with a lovely goal, it has to be said, Hugh McDonald by Scott Wright. I think to score your first goal for your club and in the manner that he dispatched it into the net, he'll be happy. I think he's a really good signing by Rangers. I think he's going to get better and better.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, Peter. He's technically very good. Used to watch him at Aberdeen, and he sometimes uses an impact player. And any time coming on, he always seemed to offer something. Yeah, I think he'll improve massively. In fact, I think he already has. I think his confidence has risen. I think that can rise if another club such as Rangers want you. And the second thing is, you're always a better player playing with better players as well. So, yeah, I think he'll come on. It was an interesting night last night, Peter, with the game. A game that was a dead rubber with, the teams changed. Both teams changed in light of a Scottish Cup quarter-final on the horizon. It still managed to produce its normal level of Scottish controversy.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from because quite simply, Roughie, I think St Johnstone might have looked and thought they could have had 3 penalties in the game because there was a couple of handballs that they were making huge claims and the referee changed his mind at one point after awarding them a penalty and there was no VAR, Roughie.
No, and it just shows you how difficult it is for the referees. They have the inconsistency of this handball is there for everybody to see. Some referees interpret it different from others, and if you're St Johnstone, obviously you're saying it's a penalty. There's no doubt about that. But I'm sure it's happened to them as well this year. I think you've just got to get on with it now. That's why I'm a big fan of the VAR as long as it's deciding decisions like that, not the offside decision that your heels over the line. But these kind of instances are the ones you want referees to get right because they win the games, and that's why they're so disappointed they never got any of them.
Yeah, 2 quick things, Stephen. A lot of people have been mentioning that Nathan Patterson should be part of the Scotland squad. Steve Clarke's a tremendously loyal manager on the people that have got him there. Do you think he could sneak in?
I think what goes against him is the manager's not worked with him, but I think out of any of the players that are on the periphery and everybody's up and there about, I think he's got the best chance. I think it's a position that, again, Stephen O'Donnell's come in and been very consistent and the manager's worked with him a lot, so understands him. But Nathan Patterson gives you so much in terms of going forward as well as defensively. So I think out of the players that are on the fringes of it, I think he's got the best chance of going.
Yeah. Hugh, the other point which I was going to put to you is we're still waiting on the outcome of the 5 players that were charged with breaching COVID rules. It's been a long time, Hugh. I think the SFA have left themselves wide open to criticism here and how they've handled this. Listen, let's not beat about the bush. They've handled a number of players breaking the rules quickly. This one is dragged on. And I'm not quite sure where they're going with it. The other part of the hearing was on Monday, and still nobody's any the wiser.
No, and it's months, Peter. It's months. It's an astonishing thing that's going on. There's been so many astonishing remarks made about the case as well. We're led to believe this was a complete hands up with being caught. That was certainly the indication from Rangers when it happened. The rhetoric from Rangers when it happened as well was very, aggressive on the players, they will be punished. They will be punished severely. Remember the Steven Gerrard press conferences, and suddenly there's been a kind of reverse ferret, as it were, and it's changed in the SFA. I mean, but it's remarkable how long it takes. I mean, the season now is it's a possible. I mean, all in any suspensions, we've got to presume that there will be suspensions. Surely, will now presumably not kick into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. We wait to see what transpires there. I can tell you that Rangers have just put the season tickets on sale for the new season. So again, I think when you consider what's gone on over the last year and their commitment, I think a lot of Rangers fans will be steaming in there to get their season tickets early, especially for the start of next season to defend their title. Hibs against Livingston, Roughie. In the end, Hibs edged it by 2-1, and I think that win last night really does put them in a good place, because you've got St Johnstone, Aberdeen and Celtic to finish, and I don't think anybody would bet against them securing third place, which is, I just think it's a great performance by them.
I think you have to congratulate the manager and the players that he's brought to the club. The additions, we used to rave about Hibs, the midfield three, who were magnificent, McGeoch and Allen, and I can't remember, would have McGinn as well, and he changed that a bit. He changed it from that style of player to a more workman-like player, somebody with a bit of dig in there, with a bit of flair as well, obviously with Irvine coming in. So, and Boyle's been fantastic. I wish Boyle had been Scottish, because I certainly would have him in my team, just because he's pace and the trouble he causes people when he's in full flow. So, no, I think Hibs have had a great year, apart from the two semi-finals, thanks to Stevie. There's another one. There's another one hopefully coming round the bend, and that would be a fantastic end to the season if they could get to a final.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Boyle. I'm going to mention Boyle in the same context, because I did mention that I thought Celtic were lucky with a couple of players, and just to get a bit of consistency on it, Frank Ingles thinks we've forgotten about David Turnbull. We did mention that Celtic were lucky not to get yellow cards, possibly red. I thought Turnbull should have been sent off in the game. If that had been another player, if that had been a Scott Brown lashing out with the boot on Dylan McGeoch, could have been sent off, Hugh. So I don't think we're throwing anything under the carpet, but I'll lump David Turnbull in with he should have been sent off, and I also will lump in the man that's Roughie wants to be Scottish. I thought Martin Boyle, for all his protestations over the last week or two about diving, I don't think he did himself any favours last night. I thought he dived again.
I know, but I can't. I'm one of these guys. I can't get worked up about diving, Peter. I really don't. I can't. And one of the things is as well is see the way these footballers move, the speed at what they move, and I know everybody raises their eyebrows about anticipating contact. I don't think it takes much to go down, and I can't. I'm afraid I'm not a great sort of looker at the diving thing. If the referee thinks it's simulation, fair enough, yellow card. I think Turnbull was really lucky to stay on the park. I thought that was, I thought that was just like, if you're doing a video on straight reds, that's exhibit 1. But again, on the diving, I don't get too worked up about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask Stephen about it, because I think it would be unfair to comment on another professional footballer who's playing, and you're playing as well. But Hugh, you might not get miffed about it, but Roughie, I completely get the Steven Naismiths of the world, the Andy Walkers, all the professional footballers, especially the Strikers Union, who say, I'm not going to alter my stride. They're out to gain an advantage. But last night I looked at it and I thought, oh, come on, he's thrown himself. I mean, it was embarrassing. And I do get miffed, because it wins teams' games. Yeah.
It's difficult when you're looking for the outside, and trying to decide, is the pace that he's going at enough for him to go down the way they go down? I mean, I've seen bigger guys than that going down, like a ton of bricks when they're hardly being touched at all. And it is. It's not nice to see, particularly if you're in the wrong end of it. I don't particularly like it, in our league in the SPL. But I wouldn't mind a diver in the Scotland team at the Euros. I think I could handle that.
Yeah, well, I can hear my old friend. Hugh Keevins when I listen to you, Roughie, and it's basically hypocrisy is a noble art, and it's alive and well in our game. So I think that sums it up perfectly. Although Hugh used to kid on him was smoking a cigar as he said it. It's a noble art and thriving in our game. Well, anyway, I thought he dived, and I thought David Turnbull should have had a red card. So. Listen, we'll give you an opinion. You might like it, you might not. That's the joy of football. In the end, Hibs won it. Livingston have just won one of the last 9 games, but I think it's been a great season for Livingston. In the other match, which was the Lanarkshire Derby, it ended with Motherwell getting the win, albeit against 10 men. Brian Rice still not at this point conceding that they're going down.
Of course we can. Of course we can. Nothing's decided tonight. It just makes it more difficult for us. We've had said that down the stair in the dressing room. It just makes it more difficult. We just need to go harder, we need to go quicker, we need to go stronger.
Well, Steven Naismith, I'm looking here at Hamilton Accies, who are 3 points behind Ross County, 4 goals better off in goal difference. And as I look at the last 3 games that they have, they've got St Mirren, they've got Ross County in Dingwall and Kilmarnock. So, how many? I mean, honestly, a Dingwall will be not for the faint-hearted.
It won't. I think the fixtures are good for them. I think them having Kilmarnock and Ross County, that's what it's coming down to. How these teams perform against each other. And the one thing Hamilton have over Kilmarnock especially is they've been in this environment consistently year after year. I think the results last night, massive for Kilmarnock. They'll now be able to relax a bit and trust and believe that it's in their hands. I'm not so sure that Hamilton are down as of yet. I think the games we just spoke about, Kilmarnock and Ross County, are massive, and they're going to dictate how it ends.
Yeah, you said you're not sure. Have you got a team in mind that you think is going down?
No, I think it'll be Ross County or Hamilton, but I wouldn't say Hamilton are dead and buried, because I think even if you look in the past over the history, they can go 3-4 games without getting a result, and then they have a wee flourish of results that end up keeping them up. So I think they've got that part, and being comfortable in this environment is going to be massive for them over the next coming weeks.
Yeah, fair play to Motherwell. Graham Alexander, well happy with the win in the derby.
Yeah, the players deserve all the credit, because it's been a tough season, certainly against Hamilton. Local rivals and the rivalry that goes between the two clubs, and we've been second best all season, but we weren't today, and that's really pleasing.
Yeah, Ross County started well, Hugh, then St Mirren came back. I think St Mirren have been impressive this season, but suddenly Ross County have got Dundee United away, Hamilton Accies at home, and then they've got Motherwell away. How do you rate their chances?
I think it's all down to, I think the game in May the 12th in Dingwall, Peter, is what it's all about. I think I'm taking Kilmarnock right out the equation. I think they're safe. I know arithmetically they're not, but I think if you've got a guy that contributes hat-tricks and the momentum that you've got, I don't think they'll be involved. So it's the 2 bottom places, the playoff and relegation places. And I think it'll be as simple as, I think it might come down to the fact that Hamilton have to go to Dingwall to win. I wouldn't rule them out doing that. If you're asking me for a selection, I stick with the one I made at the beginning of the season. I think Hamilton will go down, but I still think they're far from certainties. I mean, it's 3 points, and they get that in Dingwall if they win. I think that's what they might have to do, Peter. They might have to go to Dingwall and win.
Yeah, that's a good point you make, Hugh. I'm going to stick to my prediction at the start of the season, Roughie, and I think you were with me on this, Ross County.
Yeah, I'm taking Kilmarnock out of the equation as well. I'm sticking with Ross County, but obviously Hamilton have to go up there. I think they have went up there this season and won, but it'd be a massive game, massive pressure, and and both sets of players going up there. But I personally wouldn't be worried about being last because you're relegated. I would worry if I was second last because I don't think either of the two of them are capable of thinking they're going to beat any of the teams for the first division. Now I know Dundee and Dunfermline aren't exactly a load of consistency, but in a two-legged game, I think I would fancy them to put up a right good show in light of some of the Premier League Championship scores that have been going on in the Scottish Cup just recently. So I think if you're in the bottom two, you're in a bit of trouble because you've got to come through that amount of pressure that goes with that.
Yeah, let's talk about Kilmarnock and that hat-trick last night. Steven Naismith, you know Kyle Lafferty. It's been a shrewd signing. I mean, how good and how highly do you rate him?
It's similar to Griff. The argument with Griff, he's a guy who hadn't had a club, hadn't trained for a month or so, maybe even longer. So fitness levels, you're saying he's not up to speed in that, but he scores your goals. He scores your goals and he scores your goals in the last 2 months of every season. So that's, and I don't think it could have went any better for him in terms of the amount of goals. To have 10 goals in such a short period is a phenomenal return. And like the guys have said, it's pulled Kilmarnock right out of the relegation battle. For them to be sitting in the position they are and knowing how solid they can be in games in terms of not giving up too many chances, they'll feel good in where they're at now. And I wouldn't really laugh getting another 3-4 goals by the end of the season. So fantastic signing, and it's all clicked at the right time for Kilmarnock for me.
Yeah, Sir Alex Ferguson's been speaking today. He was talking about, just like anybody, Sir Alex, I think when you actually get to hear him speak, he speaks so passionately about Scotland. He's like every one of us. You know, when he's sitting in his couch watching the game, he becomes a fan. And of course, he does feel that Scotland, qualifying for the Euros, but in a battle with the World Cup qualifiers, have sorely missed the supporters at Hampden.
Getting them back, the fans back, is a boost to the game because, as we know, it's not the same game. I mean, I go to watch United. It's a ghost town. There's no atmosphere whatsoever. And to get that back, that's what the players need, and particularly the supporters getting back watching their team.
So glad to see him, Hugh. Just looking chirpy, back out in the spotlight. Great news.
Absolutely, and in good form as well. I know he's still reading all his books and still going to games and still got his opinions. I think one of the when you see the way managers been, I think one of the great things about his management career, Peter, was his longevity. The way that he managed to manage very successfully in different clubs in different eras and different demands made on managers now. And he was when it was just on the cusp of it changing, that you couldn't manage in a certain way, you had to manage in another way. You had to refine and he adapted to that. So great to see him. Great to see him looking so well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's a good talking point, Roughie. I actually think Sir Alex Ferguson would survive and thrive in the current, managerial merry-go-round. I still think he would have that golden touch.
Yeah, we speak about it all the time. But as far as manager are concerned, it's respect. Respect for what they've done in the game. And if you're all sitting in the dressing room waiting and the manager coming through the door, it's a big influence if somebody like Sir Alex Ferguson comes through the door, because you know what he's done, what he's won in the game, and you tend to listen a lot more than if it had been maybe a lesser manager, whether that's right or wrong. But, they have a presence. They have a Jock Stein walking into the dressing room. They have, people like Sir Matt Busby. I think people like that, they've earned it in the game, and they've earned that you should listen to everything they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sir Alex, delighted that we're at the Euros, and I think he may have shed a tear himself when he was watching David Marshall save the penalty, and of course the Ryan Christie interview afterwards.
It was fantastic, and David Marshall, I think we'll always remember David Marshall's reaction, and Ryan Christie interview. These are special moments that encapsulate exactly what it meant to everyone. Ryan Christie was crying for Scotland, every Scottish fan. David Marshall made a save that every Scot wished they'd made, every Scottish goalkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Steven Naismith, I thought the best part of it all, and this is probably a sad indictment on the way the rules and VAR and everything has affected football. He didn't even know if he was going to be clear after he'd made the save. He was still waiting for some kind of confirmation.
I think that makes it that wee bit special because of that cliffhanger moment where Marsh is like, have I managed to stay on the line? Because goalies now have to have this thought of, are my feet above the line and they're not off the line? And with his reaction, Big Marshy knows exactly what's riding on that one moment. So the suspense, it builds a suspense. It's a tremendous moment. And it'll become an iconic moment in years to come, but it couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Yeah, absolutely. No Scottish referees at the Euros this summer, Hugh. Are you surprised?
Not at all. And I'm fed up talking about it. The only way you judge, you can properly judge your own league, Peter, is when you play teams in another league. You know, I think that's why any criticism of Rangers this year of having an easy run or having this and that, I think their European performances have proved the merit and the substance of that team. And the only way you can really, everybody going about how good or bad our refs are, but the real testing point is when somebody has a chance to pick a ref to do a tournament and they don't. That tells you something. I personally think this season, looking back over the season, that if it had been a very close title race, you would have heard more about the standard of refereeing in Scotland. I think, for example, last night, if Rangers had to win to maintain a title charge into the last, ahead of an Old Firm game, can you imagine last night, Peter, the decisions last night, which I thought the major decisions were all wrong. Can you imagine what that would have done? No, I think I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, well, I think I think Willie Collum, only Scottish referee on UEFA's elite list, so that tells you something. They've had a tough season and they've come in for a fair bit of criticism. Just before we go, Roughie, I don't know if you noticed it, obviously because he had problems with his microphone, but did you sense that Steven Naismith's voice has got a little bit deeper, because he's obviously now, contemplating becoming a coach? Have you noticed anything, Roughie, a change in the boy?
No, I've missed this bit of information. Obviously, you've caught me on the hop with this one, but certainly Stevie's one of the guys who's been in the game long enough. If he wants to become a coach, then I'm sure young players would listen to everything he's got to say. Yeah,
absolutely. I didn't expect you to be reading anything, Roughie, unless it was a Partick Thistle board meeting and you had your clipboard with you. But you have actually been helping out John Rankin with the under-18s. Are we putting 2 and 2 together, Stephen, and getting 5 at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment. I think it was circumstances that being the under-18s have been off all year and then they've now decided to go back and have some form of shorter league, and a lot of the coaches are off, and just with the COVID testing and numbers and being in certain bubbles, it was a case of there not being enough coaching staff. So, but it's something that, to be honest, I've done it from my time at Everton, Norwich, and at Hearts. Just try to get some coaching in at certain points, just whenever I feel it's going to be useful, because it definitely is the route I want to go down. I enjoy tactics and man management of a squad, and over my whole career, that's what's interested me. I found that interesting from managers, so that's definitely the way I want to go when I finish playing.
Yep, I can still see you obviously trying to referee the game from the touchline when you become a manager. That's a stonewall certainty. And the other thing, Hugh, and I think you and I might have missed the boat on this. I mean, I love going to press conferences and having a right ding-dong with managers. I wonder if we're just going to miss out on that moment when we can go into a press room, Hugh, and batter Naismith for trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
I think there's time for you, Peter, but I mean, I'm at the stage where every day's a bonus. I mean, if I get I mean, you're talking about press conferences. If I get the Bundesliga highlights tonight, it'll be a result for me, you know. But I'm just interested. I'll say this to you, Stephen. The guy that you're going with is something. You have great moments in football. One of just nice wee moments in football. One of the nice wee moments I had was about a year and a bit ago. I was in Doha, and there was a couple of Scottish journalists. We got to interview Andy Robertson, who had already won an English League, a European Cup, and who's now going to be a World Club champion. And was sitting there and asking him, who said, that Milner must have taught him so much about the game, and he said, never mind Milner. He said, ranks taught me everything I know. So there you go. You can tell your fellow coach that. He was really. I'm telling you, it was a great story, Stephen. He was really talking about how Rankin and Peyton at Dundee United, that coaching totally on the park, getting told what to do, was so important for his development.
Yeah. Do you feel in any way intimidated, Stephen, when you see Ranks take off his top and there's still a six-pack there?
He's in some shape. He's a
machine.
That shape when I finish. He's also got his angry streak. I've seen him lose it in the training pitch a few times, which is good to see.
Brilliant. He's a great lad. Absolutely top
I bump into him up in the supermarket in Cumbernauld, and his wife puts him in the trolley to hurl him about.
Yeah. and that'll get back to him, by the way. That's a stonewall certainty. And of course, Roughie would know that, because Roughie has been tailing Ranks' wife in the supermarket for the last 6 months. Anyway, apart from anything else, we'll be talking at the top of the programme about this European Super League thing and whether it's dead and buried, and of course Rangers and Celtic, and the story in the Sun about going down to play in the Premier League. I leave you with this picture, of course, which is hard to believe. 2 years have passed since Billy McNeill passed away. And I think everybody knows that Billy McNeill lifted the European Cup for Celtic at a time when champions of the respective leagues were in the Champions League or the old European Cup. Billy McNeill, 2 years past today, gone but not forgotten. From Steven Naismith, Hugh McDonald and Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Marston. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold Clark